In 1897, Bram Stoker published a novel about a vampire who lived in a castle in Transylvania. The vampire drank blood. He slept in a coffin. He was afraid of garlic and crucifixes and sunlight. He was also, and this is the part Stoker didn't fully understand, named after a real person. The real Dracula did not drink blood. He did not sleep in a coffin. He was not afraid of garlic. He was afraid of nothing. And by the time you understand what he actually did, the vampire will seem like the children's version. In 1442, a man named Vlad Dracula made a deal with the Ottoman Empire. He was the Prince of Wallachia, a small, chewed-up principality sandwiched between Hungary and the Ottoman Turks. The Ottomans wanted a guarantee, so Vlad Dracula gave them one. He gave them his sons. The deal was simple. Behave and your children live. Misbehave and we have your children. They learned Turkish. They learned court politics. They learned how empires think. Radu adapted. He was charming. He was beautiful. He befriended the future sultan. He became Ottoman in everything but birth. Vlad did not adapt. Vlad watched. Vlad remembered. And somewhere in those years, locked inside the court of the people who held his life in their hands, something in Vlad set like concrete. His father had been murdered. His older brother had been blinded and buried alive. The people who did this were the boyars, Wallachia's own nobility. Vlad came home to a throne surrounded by the men who had killed his family. He sat down anyway, and he remembered their names. The fictional Dracula invites victims to his castle. He is charming. He pours wine. The real one did the same thing, except the wine was real, the food was real, and the reveal was worse. Hundreds of nobles arrived in their finest clothing. They ate. They drank. They celebrated the resurrection. Then Vlad asked a question. How many princes have you seen come and go? The room went quiet. Vlad already knew the answer. He'd been counting. The older boyars were taken outside and impaled. The younger ones were marched 50 miles north to Puanari Castle, stone by stone, until their Easter clothes disintegrated off their bodies. The fictional Dracula rules through supernatural fear. He controls minds. He hypnotizes. Vlad didn't need any of that. He had a simpler method. He placed a golden cup at a public fountain in the central square of Targovishte. It sat there, unguarded, in the open, day and night. Nobody stole it. Not once. Not in his entire reign. It was because they had seen what happened to thieves. He impaled them. He impaled merchants. He impaled liars. The cup sat in the square the way a loaded gun sits on a table. It meant, I dare you. Nobody accepted, and his imagination was better than yours. The morning after the Easter feast, the people of Targovishte opened their shutters and saw the boyars. They were upright, elevated, arranged in a line outside the city walls, each one mounted on a wooden stake. Some were still moving. The point was not speed. The point was time. Hours. Sometimes days. Visible from the road. What Vlad did was think about the arrangement. Other rulers impaled a prisoner as an example. Vlad impaled a city. He was not just killing people. He was composing. In Nuremberg, 1,000 miles away, a printer set a woodcut illustration into his press. Vlad seated at a table, eating dinner among a garden of impaled bodies. The pamphlet sold well. Then another printer made his own version. Then another. Dracula was one of the first people to go viral. The medium was brand new. The content was ancient. In 1462, Sultan Mehmed II, the man who had conquered Constantinople, the man who had ended the Roman Empire, marched an army of 90,000 soldiers into Wallachia. Vlad had maybe 30,000. He burned his own crops. He poisoned his own wells. He drove the cattle away. The landscape had been turned into a weapon. Then, on the night of June 17th, Vlad attacked. He rode into the Ottoman camp wearing Ottoman uniforms, speaking Turkish, the language he'd learned as a hostage. He attacked the wrong tent. In the darkness, Ottoman soldiers began killing each other, unable to tell friend from enemy. The attack killed thousands. It did not kill Mehmed. Vlad retreated into the forest, but the war was not over, because Vlad had prepared a second weapon, and Mehmed was about to walk into it. The Ottoman army continued toward Targoviste. They expected a capital, a final stand. What they found was a road, and on both sides of the road, a forest of wooden stakes, 20,000 of them, each one bearing a body. The tallest stakes reserved for the highest-ranking captives, placed in the center, so the eye was drawn to the most important deaths first. The smell reached the army before the sight did. Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, stopped. What can we do against a man who does this? The Sultan withdrew. The most effective military installation Vlad ever built was made of wood and dead people. The fictional Dracula is scary because he bites your neck. The real one built a forest out of corpses and made the most powerful army on earth lose its nerve. But Mehmed had another weapon, one Vlad could not impale. Radu, the brother. Radu stood at the border and spoke to Vlad's own men, in Romanian. He promised what Vlad could never promise, that they would not wake up on a stake. The first garrison commander opened his gate, then the next, then the next. Vlad's own nobility abandoned him. He fled north, across the mountains, into Hungary, where he was imprisoned for 12 years. 12 years. The man who had made the Ottoman Empire turn around spent the next decade in a Hungarian prison cell. The brother who had adapted now sat on the throne. The brother who had refused to break was the one who was broken. Radu died in 1475. Vlad was released the same year. He took the throne a third time. He lasted 2 months. Vlad was killed. His head was cut from his body. It was preserved in honey. It was carried to Constantinople. Mehmed had the head displayed on a stake outside his palace. The impaler was impaled. The last stake was his. His body was buried at Snagov Monastery on an island in a lake. In 1933, archaeologists opened the grave. It was empty, which is a detail that Bram Stoker would have appreciated if he had known about it. Here's the thing about Bram Stoker that changes this entire story. He barely knew who Vlad was. Stoker found the name Dracula in a book by William Wilkinson. The book mentioned that Dracula meant devil. That was enough. He used it. Stoker's notes contain no reference to Vlad, no mention of Tepish, no mention of impalement, no mention of the forest, no mention of Radu. The most famous vampire in literary history was named after a man the author knew almost nothing about. And that man was worse. The fictional Dracula drinks blood because he needs to survive. He kills because he is cursed. He is a monster who was made, not born. The real one was born human and chose everything he did. The stakes were sharpened on his orders. The forest was arranged by his design. The cup was placed by his hand. The fictional Dracula is a story about a monster pretending to be a man. The real Dracula is a story about a man who didn't need to pretend. Romania still considers him a hero,